back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about The Girl in the Fireplace, written by Stephen Moffat and is directed by Euro Lynn. We will also be talking about Tardisode 4, written by Gareth Roberts and Ashley Way, and also The Pompadour, written by Stephen Moffat and produced by Emily Cook. Now, this story, The Girl in the Fireplace, was hugely popular when it first aired. Stephen Moffat, who originally had won an award for his work in the previous story that he did, The Empty Child and the Doctor's Dances, and here he also won an award for best drama story short form. So well done for Stephen Moffat on that. Clearly he was setting up for taking Russell T Davies's job in the series. But strange enough, I have fond memories of watching this story when it first aired and not being particularly keen on it, because at the time there was a discourse between fans of the new series and fans of the classic series. The classic series was a lot more melodrama, a lot more focused on the plots, and a lot less, not that I'm not interested in characters, but in the new series it felt a lot more like a drama with characters crying, having their emotions, constant, with a lot of romance. This story is full of romance. In fact, controversially, this is one of the few stories in which the Doctor is shown to have a romantic interest in a character, and even more controversially, in this era of the show, for people who are huge fans of the Rusty Davies era, is interested in a character that's not Rose. As we have the character of Madame de Pompadour, or at least that's her title. The real name being Renetta Croissant, a famous French aristocrat from the 17th century. Now, she is a real person. I have no basis on what she did in her life and what she accomplished. I know nothing about French history, specifically the royal family. So all that information I've got about her is from this story. She was apparently one of the mistresses of King Louis IV, or was it the Sixth? It was definitely one of them. We also will be talking about Tardisode 4, which, as I've stated in previous vlogs, were a series of minute-long prequels for each of the stories that were coming out in Series 2. This one is no exception. Now, the Tardisodes were originally released to be downloaded on phone or on your computer, but sadly, because of the poor way they were kept, they can only now be found in low quality videos on YouTube. That's how I watched these Tardisode episodes. Along with that, we'll be talking about The Pompadour, a sequel of sorts to The Girl in the Fireplace. Emily Cook, during the 2020 pandemic of the COVID-19, set up this series of watch-alongs where a bunch of people, including celebrities, would go and watch a Doctor Who episode all at the same time. And for sometimes she would even produce short little stories for them with official Doctor Who writers and actors reprising their roles. This one being no exception. Stephen Moffat made this monologue, and it was read out by Sophie Myers, who also played Madame de Pompadour in the story. So that's really cool. Now, I've stated before. Now, I wasn't keen when this story first aired, but I will admit my issues with the stories was heavily biased. It wasn't like it was in the old days kind of sentimentality. So now with a much more mature mind, does this story hold up? Is this story worthy of its awards, or was there other good reasons to not like this story back in 2006? Well, let's find out. First of all, Tardisode 4. Like I said, these are really short. In here, we see the crew members of the ship, which we see in the story. And these two characters, they're just sort of relaxing, enjoying their company on the ship, when suddenly something starts happening and they seem to be crashing, or at least it takes a heavy amount of damage. As we see one of the characters, she looks up and she's like, "Oh, thank God you're here," as we can hear a clock ticking. And when the camera gets closer to with this the droid coming in, does this woman suddenly start panicking? It's like, no, stay back, no! And then that's our Tardisode. So far, this is my favourite Tardisode. It's great at setting up the story. It still has the atmosphere, but it also adds some little bit more, not information, but it shows us something which was heavily implied in the story, but we never actually got to see. So this one is actually a really great story, a great little short to start off with. So I highly recommend TARDIS 4 if you're planning on rewatching A Girl in the Fireplace. So let's cut into now The Girl in the Fireplace. The story sees the pre-credit sequence is actually a flash forward, which is very rare. But we don't actually know this at the time. It starts off with a bunch of people in this French hall started screaming and shouting, and they're running around in these really fancy costumes as one of the characters, who we later learn is Madame de Pompadour, she's in her bedroom as King Louis comes in and tries to get her to be evacuated, but she's like, no, someone is coming to save us, my first love, my true love. Now go to your queen, I am only your mistress. And she goes and bends down to her fireplace as she cries out, come now, Doctor, you promised that you will arrive. Doctor, as we lead into the title sequence. This is such a great way of opening an episode. It's dynamic, it's intense, it allows us to get intrigued in the story. It's like, who is this character? What is this setting? It's a very gorgeous looking setting. Eurolyn does a fantastic job here at bringing out the French historical accuracy, but also balancing it out with the sci-fi elements later on in the story. Speaking of later on in the story, we then cut into, after the credits of course, we cut into 300 years, I think it's 300 or 3,000 years in the future, where the Doctor, Rose and Mickey land the TARDIS in a abandoned, or seemingly abandoned, spaceship. And this would be Mickey's first story off-world, off-Earth, as he's got this great googly eyes, as he's like, oh my god, spaceship, I got a spaceship. And something to note as well here, Rose is very different compared to where we left off with her in School Reunion. In School Reunion, she kind of seemed really disappointed and annoyed by the fact that Mickey Smith was joining the TARDIS, because she's selfish and she wants the Doctor all to herself, and she thinks that Mickey would kind of ruin the fun of it, because Rose is just annoying. But here she seems really enthusiastic and really excited for the fact that Mickey Smith is in this. It doesn't feel like, there feels like there should be a massive gap in between these two stories. The reasoning for it is actually because this story actually was written first, and Stephen Moffat had not read School Reunion yet, because but maybe it had a spoiler because he didn't want Russell T Davies wanted to keep Sarah Jane's role a secret. I don't know. But either way, there is a clear contrast. And in a way, I'm kind of glad, because I didn't want to see Rose Tyler just being mean to Mickey throughout the entire episode. I think that would have been really harsh on his character, in my opinion. In fact, I actually like Rose and Mickey in this story. they seem to have a nice, lovely friendship. There's some really great moments with them, and yeah. So we learn a little bit of mystery of this ship. The Doctor is surprised by it. So I was like, where is all of the crew members? Nobody's here. They haven't. There's no life pods or anything, so they haven't gone out for. Just gone out for a little bit. So where is everybody? And there's also seemingly a massive amount of energy this ship is producing, much to break actually a fabric in the space-time continuum. But for some reason, the ship is not even moving an inch. How is that possible? And they find a 17th century French fireplace just in the place, and which is even more baffling, as Rose points out, that this is actually a wall leading straight into, it's one of the hull rooms. There is no other room. There is it's just empty space, but the Doctor can clearly see another room, and then he says, "Oh, hello," as we hear a girl's voice on the other side, as they look through the room, through the fireplace, and they see a little girl, Renette. I don't know how old she's supposed to be. If I had to guess, I would say about 11, 12, maybe. I'm not quite sure. Around about that age. And the Doctor makes this really funny joke in which the Doctor's like, "I'm just this fireman, fixing your fireplace. Can you tell me what year it is?" And she says it's 17 something. And like the mystery starts piecing together. It's like, okay, we have a ship here which has a time window into the 17th century France, and the Doctor finds a button so that the fireplace actually turns around. So now he is in the room with the girl, but the girl, when she wakes up from her bed, is surprised because those events, for her anyway, were weeks, maybe even months ago. She hadn't seen the Doctor for a while, but the Doctor, this was literally just a minute ago. As all our characters start talking, we have some really fun little nice banter, and the Doctor notices something very odd, something that shocks him, something which is very Stephen Moffat-y. This is one of his trope, shall we say, something he loves to do, and when he used to do it in the Russell T Davies era, when he was writing maybe one story per series, it was still very fresh and very ambitious at the time, and really showed Stephen Moffat as a strength of a writer. But when you notice it, when especially in later stories where he would constantly do stuff like this, it really, it feels like, right, this is just Stephen Moffat doing Stephen Moffat kind of thing. So whether this aspect holds up is really dependent on what your opinions are on Stephen Moffat's writing as a whole, because this is something he does all the time. But it is important to note this is only the second time this has happened when this story is aired, because this was only his second story that was an official Doctor Who television series. And that's the whole something happens in the background where our characters don't realise something until it's pointed out. We had a very similar scene in in An Empty Child and the Doctor Dances, in which the Doctor goes into the boy's room and the tape is finished, but we can still hear the boy's voice. And we have something very similar here, as the Doctor is surprised by the fact that the clock is broken, but yet they can still hear a ticking clock. A sound of a ticking. It's like, where the hell can that ticking be? We get some really, really great shots of the Doctor slowly looking under Renette's bed. We can kind of just make out something in the corner when the Doctor flashes his sonic screwdriver. He gets attacked. He jumps up. He looks back. And then suddenly we just see feet just standing there as the Doctor looks up over the bed and finds that there's this individual, this person making these ticking noises, clearly some sort of robot, especially with the way it speaks. But it's got a mask over it, so it's covered from head to toe with period set in clothing. And the Doctor learns that this machine has been scanning Renette's brain for whatever reason. And so the robot then starts attacking the Doctor, who then gets it caught on the fireplace, turns it back so it's in there. He's in the ship again, and freezes it with a fire extinguisher. Bloody hell! I just realised I can't say that word. That's really embarrassing. Fire extinguisher. There you go. Fire extinguisher. And we have some really great 10th Doctor-y moments when he takes off the mask and he sees like it's just like a glass shell with like ticking old-fashioned like crocks and cranas inside, and the Doctor's like, "Oh, you are beautiful. It would be a dishonour to dismantle you." But that's not going to stop me. That bit, I love that bit. I love David Tennant's reaction to this. As the Doctor goes back into the fireplace to try and find out why these robots are scanning this girl's brain, and tells Rose and Mickey to stay put. They clearly don't, because they like the Doctor, like this adventure, so they go around exploring the ship. And we have a kind of back of the rank storytelling as the Doctor meets up with this woman, the woman that we've seen earlier on in the story, and the Doctor finds out later on that this is actually the girl who's grown up because of time shenanigans. She has actually grown up into a mature woman. I believe they say she's 23. And instantly there seems to be some sort of romantic connection there. The Doctor and Renette give each other googly eyes, and she states, it's like, "How can you be a stranger to me? I've known you all my life." And they have a massive snog. It's important to note, however, it's her that snogs him and not the other way around, but the Doctor is clearly, enjoying it. Now, the relationship between the Doctor and Renette, who, after she runs away because her mother's been calling her, and a servant person comes in calling her Renette Ponceau, which the Doctor clicks, it's Madame de Pompadour, the famous historical figure, and he goes on a rant about how she's like this amazing person. I love the bit where he goes, "Fantastic gardener." Love that bit. But the dynamic here is really one of the aspects of the story. It's one of the vocal points of the story. Now, I'm 50-50 on their relationship, honestly. It does have a lot of Russell T Davies issues of romanticising any female character, romanticising the Doctor's relationship. Sure, with the Doctor and Rose, I didn't like the romanticize on it. I always felt like the Doctor's always better as a father figure or a mentor than someone that the companion fancies. I like this was something that was heavily criticised when this new series arrived. The companions falling in love with the Doctor. In the last story, School Reunion, they did kind of, in some scenes, there was this kind of hint of the Doctor and Sarah Jane having a thing for each other, especially at the end of that story when the Doctor asks her, like, did you have a partner? And she said, well, I did like someone like years ago. He was a tough act to follow. He showed me everything. Basically, she's kind of hinting that she kind of was in love with the Doctor herself. But then it kind of worked because it was only in small doses, and it was really, really certainly implied. You could easily connect it with what we actually saw in the classic series, and it's just the way people talk now these days. But this adventure has Madame de Pompadour and the Doctor really romanticising over each other, and there's very little basis for a relationship other than they really fancy each other. It's important to note that David Tennant and Sophie Meyer really have a great connection. I think that's what really strengthens their story up. They actually became a couple by the end of the production of this story. The relationship ended a year after, but you can clearly see the romantic glee in their eyes in this story, which kind of helps the idea of this romantic side. But it's an issue that, you know, so many characters just quickly fall in love with the Doctor. I mean, sure, he's this fun, energetic character. I mean, he's quirky and he shows people all these amazing and fantastic things. But the idea of just these female characters constantly falling in love with the Doctor is really cliched, really, I don't want to say it's a female stereotype, you know. This was doing the I can't remember what the feminine test is, where you have two female characters trying to talk. If you have two female characters talking to each other and they're not talking about boys, then it passes the test. This story would fail in flying colours because it seems like Madame de Pompadour, all she talks about in this story is how much the Doctor is this amazing person who comes in her time of need and all that. And it's really cliched. It's really, really, you know, that kind of element. And I think in some aspects it doesn't work. Not to say that it falls flat completely. There's some really nice dialogue between them. There's some really nice chemistries with the actors, and you know. But I feel like in terms of an overall plot, that's why I feel like this dynamic fails, because you don't really see much of these characters in terms of how they get up with each other, apart from the fact that Renette has technically known the Doctor for most of her life, because she grew up knowing the Doctor when she was a little girl. So that's kind of an aspect of it. There's a great moment later on in the story where the Doctor's reading her mind and she seemingly reads his mind. And now again, this is another cliched thing that the revised series of Doctor Who usually does, in which these historical figures are these brilliant people who can deflect any sort of psychic things and stuff. Basically, it's like, oh my god, you're so brilliant, you're so amazing. Oh my god, I read your mind, but you could read my mind as well by that. And the Doctor is surprised by this. I don't see how he doesn't go, right, she can read my mind. This must be something that the robots want. The robots, the Doctor figure out, is scanning her brain in the hopes of finding her at a right age in her life, to then they will come out and take her brain, as the Rose and Mickey find parts of a human eye and a human brain wired into the machine. We learn that the ship had crashed and there wasn't enough spare parts, so these droids, these Clockwork Robots as they're called, they try and fix the ship as best they can. And as the Doctor put it, nobody told them that humans weren't on the menu. So basically they've been taking human organs and human limbs and using them as spare parts. And for some reason, they believe that Madame de Pompadour will be the final solution to their scheme, to their plan. As the Doctor befriends a horse. I believe his name is Arthur. Now, this aspect of the story is a fun little gag in the adventure. It's strange because the horse is kind of like there, as this fun little joke, and then he just kind of disappears throughout the story. It's implied in later spin-off media, and then later on in the story The Day of the Doctor, that the Doctor actually kept the horse, and not only that, this horse is a Zygon, meaning that this story is the first time a Zygon has appeared on screen since Terror of the Zygons. Work that one out. Also, what the hell is a Zygon doing in the 17th century? I love this moment where they're looking through a window and Mickey is like, what's a horse doing on an alien spaceship in the future? And the Doctor's like, Mickey, what's 17th century doing on a spaceship? Get some perspective. The banter here between the Doctor and Mickey, I find really works well. They're usually great friendship, they're great laugh with each other. It's only when the Doctor feels like that Mickey is making such really stupid remarks like that, does he kind of have this arrogance towards him. Something which I think has heavily improved since a few stories with Mickey, in which it seems like every character is just is really annoyed with Mickey for seemingly no reason, apart from the fact that he's a bit goofy. So the relationship between Mickey and the Doctor has heavily improved throughout this story. Very nice, very well done, Stephen Moffat and Russell T Davies and Euro Lynn. I don't know if you had part in it, but there you go, well done. Now let's talk about the Clockwork Robots, because they, in terms of them as villains, they don't really have that much going for them. It's the same sentimentality as a very bad Cyberman stories. Let's say Revenge of the Cybermen, where they basically can be replaced with any villain and the story wouldn't be any different. I'm glad that they made an original monster. It makes this story a lot less like disappointed by the fact, because you know the more modern idea is that if you don't need to establish the villains, just get a recurring villain. I hate that ideology. You know, this story proves you can have an original monster and have them just be there as a plot convenience. If you need a story, if you're not focused on the villains, and it still works. Now, the Clockwork Droids became a very popular monster. Not so much that people were begging for their return, but they just look really cool, especially when the mask is off. They have this really stinging noise to them. There's some really great creepy scenes with them, and despite them not having really much to do in terms of the plot, apart from really weight in terms of the plot, we do get some really intense scenes, like I mentioned at the start, when the Doctor's in young Renette's room. There's also a great scene later on where Renette is talking to one of them, because the Doctor realises that for some reason they obey whatever they say to her, and those masks are very well designed. Now, the Clockwork Droids actually are a recurring monster. This is their first appearance, and they would actually make their return in later stories featuring the 12th Doctor. So this is actually their first appearance. It's very strange. It's very... The plotting doesn't really work out for that, but, you know, it's still really cool. So the story then has them basically work out. It's like, right, we got to talk about the scene in which Rose and Mickey get captured, and Rose is basically like, you really don't want to do this. We have a friend in the ancient planets of Daleks. They call him, and then you can hear like crashing in the background. They call him, more crashing, and then the Doctor comes in, drunk off his head, with his scarf tied over his head, wearing sunglasses, singing to himself, and the Rose is just like, oh my god, here he comes, the oncoming storm. David Tennant plays drunk very well, and This is one of those elements where I felt like when I was watching it as a kid, I felt it was way too goofy, and this didn't seem like something how the Doctor would act. Sure, I can imagine the Doctor being drunk and stuff, but the Doctor was acting way too silly in my opinion. And when I first watched it, this is opinion of me as a kid now as we're talking, and we get the great line where the Doctor's like, I like you, you're my favourite, you know why? Because you're thick. You're thick from Thickania. And so's your dad. I love that, and so is your dad moment. I don't know why, it cracks me up. And the Doctor then pours wine over him, and as soon as the wine cools down, he cools down. So it's my impression that he was just pretending to be drunk so he can lower his enemies' expectations so that he can get close to them. But even still, even if he was actually drunk at the time, it's something that would really annoy me when I used to watch this growing up. But now as I've matured, it's something I have actually learned to enjoy and have a laugh with. It really makes me giggle when I rewatched it for this marathon, funny enough. So the robots have tracked Renette at the right time, sometime after her 32nd birthday, which is the same age as the ship. And for some reason they believe that is the reason how they're all going to connect. And so the Doctor sacrifices the chance of getting back onto the ship to crash through the windowsill, through a glass, destroying the connection of time between the spaceship and this time, basically trapping the Doctor in 17th century France. And because the robots can't get back, there was no need to sacrifice Madame de Pompadour, and so all the machines turn off and die. We get then a really somber moment of the Doctor and Annette basically talking, and it kind of seemed to be, there's this romance where it's like the Doctor has given up his entire time-travelling career to settle down with Madame de Pompadour. He risked everything for her, and the Doctor's like, well, I'm not going anywhere anymore. But Renette announces that basically she actually removed the fireplace into this new house of hers. She explains that it's the same model, and the Doctor is like, when you moved it, it would have loosened the connection, the time connection between the ship. And then the Doctor's like, hold on, but that would mean the connection is still there, it's still physically there. And if I'm just lucky, and he gets it to work, the connection between the times of the ship and here are back on. And so the Doctor basically turns to Renette and is like, do me a favour, pick a star, any star. As the Doctor works on some scientific gadget, and you can see him, he's getting excited, he's getting ready. He's like, we're going to take Madame de Pompadour with us. Now, the Doctor, now Rose looks really, has these like puppy dog's eyes in this scene. It could be implied, it's like she feels like she's been forgotten for Madame de Pompadour, but I like how, personally, because I personally don't like that idea, there's implications here where I think it can also be interpreted as Rose kind of knowing that the Doctor's going to be disappointed in some way. She knows that Madame de Pompadour is not going to travel with the Doctor, and she kind of feels sorry for him. She doesn't want to say it because there might be a chance that she will come and join the TARDIS, but she has a feeling. She has this sort of feeling about her. Obviously, that's my interpretation. I don't think that was what Stephen Moffat, Euro Lynn, and Russell T Davies had when they produced this story. I think the idea was because she was feeling left out, which I guess is still a valid a character trait to have at this moment. But anyway, the Doctor gets excited, he goes back through the fireplace, and he catches up with King Louis the Fourth or the Sixth, whatever. Is he even a Louis the Sixth? I'm not quite sure. And he basically announces to the Doctor that he's just missed her, as it's slowly revealed to us that the Doctor has now just arrived just after her death, as she's left a letter for the Doctor in case he came back. So the Doctor then quietly heads back into the TARDIS, turns the fireplace off. Mickey and Rose leave the Doctor to himself, as he clearly is not himself. He's more toned down. He's not energetic. He's just like, yeah, come on, let's go. In the TARDIS. I would love to see more 10th Doctor stories where he's like this, where he's a lot more calm and relaxed. I think David Tennant works better at this, as he reads the letter and she's basically is like, chances are that we're never going to meet again, but I do hope reason is wrong. Please be quick, because my time, I think, is coming short. Please come, Doctor. And the Doctor then sets the TARDIS off. When it dematerializes, we see a painting of Madame de Pompadour, as we take then a view from the outside of the ship, where it's revealed that the spacecraft that the Doctor has landed on throughout this story was called SS Madame de Pompadour. The reason why the droids thought that Madame de Pompadour was a perfect part for the ship is because the ship was named after her, part of her legacy, which is a very really just the way that revelation is, and the fact that none of our characters know. This was a mystery to the Doctor, Mickey and Rose, and it's never answered to them. It's so great, so fantastic, and it ends the story on a great beat, on a very sad beat, but a very great beat in terms of storytelling. So there you go, that's the girl in the fireplace. Now, before we come to my conclusion, let's also talk about the Pompadour. It's basically just a monologue, as Madame, or at least, should we say, Sophie Miles, who plays Madame de Pompadour, is basically giving this speech to presumably the audience, as we see clips of the castle, the French palace place that we were visiting throughout the story. She basically explains that to the Doctor she has some concerns about these droids. They have been scanning her brain, and that she kind of gets concerned because if these creatures have been scanning her brain, then if they have a scan, if they have an imprint of her, that means then there's some thing there that at least believes it's her, believes it's Madame de Pompadour, and that she feels like this creature, if abandoned on the ship, would be lonely. So, Doctor, if you could promise me anything, please don't let this creature be abandoned. I know if I was in that position, I wouldn't want to be abandoned, so don't abandon the memory of me in the ship, as it's in a shock and a surprise. We get hints throughout the story in the clips as the screen keeps glitching. It turns out that this is not actually Madame de Pompadour. This is actually an AI intelligence that believes itself to be Madame de Pompadour. As it starts questioning, it's like, Doctor, I can't feel anything. I can't feel my body. I can't feel anything. And I can understand that this creature, this thing that believes it's me, would also feel like that. So please, whatever you do, don't leave this creature like that. I do not want to have another person like me with my memories suffering. Sorry, there was fireworks outside. You can see me jump. The computer's like, please don't let this machine get lonely like I am now. And there you go. And that is probably so far my favourite of the lockdown videos that I've seen. It's very well impactful, it's very well emotionally grabbing, and that twist at the end, when it turns out it's actually an AI and not actually Madame de Pompadour explaining herself, was a really great cliffhanger. It's really emotionally grabbing because it now means that the Doctor did technically have a chance, as Madame de Pompadour's consciousness could have gone inside the TARDIS, and the Doctor could be travelling with her forever. But the Doctor didn't know. The Doctor didn't even realise that the AI was gaining sentience, and not only that, it was gaining her memories. That is such a great emotional grab, and if you haven't watched it, if you're a fan of this story, I highly recommend The Pompadour. It's free, it's on YouTube. Go watch it out. Thank you, Emily Cook, for producing this story, and thank you, Stephen Moffat and Sophie Miles, for returning to continue on from the story. So there you go. That's The Girl in the Fireplace. Overall, I think it's good. I think it's got a lot going for it. But I feel like, especially comparing it to other Stephen Moffat stories, there are issues. There are some things that I personally don't like that rear their heads out. The story can sometimes focus too much, in my opinion, on the romantic side, and really put the Doctor in a sort of character trait which I'm personally not interested in. If you like the romanticised 10th Doctor, that is perfectly fine. That is, it's a very valid opinion, and I know a lot of people like it. It's just me, at least the way it's done, I only like it when it's one particular character, which we'll get on to. Actually, we've already talked about River Song in previous videos, so I can mention it's River Song. I'm never keen on the Doctor. I'm rarely keen on the Doctor having a romantic aspect to another character like this. So the story just didn't grab me there. But there's a lot of great intrigue. The mystery of the ship is very well executed, and it's very well directed. It looks absolutely stunning. As I've stated before, the BBC always know how to do period dramas. I don't know why, they just seem to be an expert of them. So clearly this story was going to always look good, despite what director. But Eurolin really gives a great stamp on this adventure. He does let it stand out very, very well. So there you go, that's Tardisode 4, The Girl in the Fireplace, and The Pompadour. So join me next time when the Doctor, Mickey and Rose travel to a world which looks exactly like Earth, but it's not really, as there's giant zeppelins in the sky, and there's a crazy man in a wheelchair creating an army that's familiar to the Doctor, something of his old friends, or should he say, old enemies. So join me next time for The Age of Steel and the Rise of the Cybermen. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!